Welcome back. In this third and final chapter of this Swift unit, we're going to talk about closures. So we're going to bring this unit to a closure. That was terrible. Let's continue. So closures are a thing in programming languages, and in Swift, they're called self-contained blocks of functionality that can be passed around and used in your code. Closures in Swift are similar to blocks in Objective-C and lambdas in other programming languages. Okay, that explains everything. We're done with this chapter. Please like and subscribe. Okay. This explains nothing. Let's go see what a closure is in our code. So we're still at the structs page. I'm going to go create a new page for my closures. Okay. And down here, I'm going to go create a closure. Okay. So I'm going to create a closure. And I guess one of the things I want to point out here is that you're probably not going to create many closures, right? But I just want to show you what it is. Var closure, closure, can't type, equals to curly brace, print hello world. Okay, interesting. Then I'm going to run this closure. If I run this and open up my console, it's printed hello world. Okay, at which point you might be yelling at me, YJ, what are you doing? That's a function, right? And you're right. This is a function. If I add more lines of code, it will run the next line of code. I'm going to say print bye-bye. If I run this, closure, open bracket, close bracket, will run hello world and bye-bye. Okay, so a closure is pretty much a function that's stored as a variable. Okay, all right. That's close to what we need to know about closures. Okay, I guess the advantage of this is that you can take this closure and pass it to another function, or you can pass it to another closure, right? And we've actually been doing that in SwiftUI. Okay, so that's actually something fairly remarkable. And I'd like to show you what a piece of closure code might look like. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go create a new playground page. And it's going to be over here, Command-Shift-N, closure, oops, I'm a caps lock, closure in SwiftUI. Right, I'm going to tap on this. And I'm going to paste in a bunch of code. If you're interested in having the code, you can take a look at the description where we might or might not remember to include it. But this right here is a bunch of SwiftUI code, right? As you can see, it's got the views and VStacks and buttons and things like that. Okay. And what I want to point out is there's a whole bunch of closures here, right? There's a whole bunch of closures here. The most obvious one is this, right? The most obvious one is this. This is a function that is living inside this button structs definition. Okay, if you remember what we said in the previous chapter, the button is a struct, right? And when you type out button, the one we ask you to choose is the one that takes in an action and a description, right? Both of these are expecting closures. Okay, so the very first closure you give it is the action, right? The code to be run when the button is tapped. What's interesting though is that the second thing that you give it, the label, is also a closure, right? It's also a closure. This actually represents a chunk of code that you run to put something on the screen that represents a button. I hope that kind of makes sense. Okay, this is a chunk of code that you run to put something on the screen that represents the button. And the code essentially is a text over here, right? So all these are closures, right? So the button actually takes in two closures as its argument. The first closure is the action. The second closure is the label. Okay, now there's plenty of closures here. There's another closure right here, this VStack. When you create a VStack, you're actually creating a VStack with one argument, which is the closure of what to include in the VStack, right? And a VStack can take up to 10 things. It can actually include up to 10 things inside it, and it will just stack them up vertically, right? That's exactly what a VStack does, right? But all this is declared as a closure. So in this closure, you just have a button. At this point, you might be wondering, is var body sum view a closure? Right? No, that's not, right? This is a computed property. We'll talk more about this at some point in the near future if we remember to. Okay, so don't worry about it. And then you remember, I know, curly braces are all closures. No, this is a struct definition, right? You saw this, you created a struct before, right? And When you create a struct, you use curly braces to determine what's inside the struct. Okay, so plenty of closures exist in SwiftUI. I want to take a moment to head back to our previous project to show you the autocomplete from button, just to show you what a closure looks like. So let's try and create a spare button over here. Button, open bracket. And if you remember, I asked you to look for the one with action and label, right? And here you go. This is what a closure looks like. Okay, this is what a closure looks like. An action that takes in a closure and a label that takes in a closure. A closure is represented by a series of brackets and followed by arrows. And this bracket will be what the closure takes in as an argument and what it returns. In this case, it returns a void. This thing, it returns something that's an underscore. Underscore means you just don't really care about what it is. Kind of. That's close enough. Okay, so that's what's happening when you do your autocomplete. Okay, so we're back in this one. I hope you now have a sense of what's a closure, right? So again, this is a closure, this is a closure, and this is a closure, and you'll be working with plenty of closures in SwiftUI. Closures are actually a pretty advanced concept, and we wouldn't normally teach them so early on in the programming course. It's just that they're everywhere in SwiftUI, so we can't really help it. So that's it for closures for now. We're not going to go very deep into how to create closures. And if you're interested, you can go read the Swift documentation. It actually goes into a lot of detail about what you might do when you have different closures and things like that. But in the next video, we'll put it all together. We'll put arrays, structs, and closures into a single example. And hopefully that's how you'll learn a little bit more about how closures work. For now, that's it. And if you have any questions and comments, let us know. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon and all that other stuff. Bye bye.